Hello, everyone. This is O'Shane again, and this lesson is going to be about factoring quadratic expressions when a is equal to 1. Now, we are able to do this lesson now because previously we spoke about a quadratic expression or equation, and we looked at being able to identify a quadratic expression or equation and also identify a, b, and c. Now, I don't know if you have been exposed to factoring before, but I'm going to do this one where I just do some examples and provide you guys with some tricks and tips to doing this properly. So, right now, what I've had is the steps. The steps are actually pretty straightforward. This is not necessarily where people get tripped up, right? So, let's talk about the steps first. So, the steps are step one, identify A, B, and C. I think we're already unlocked for doing that. We're good with that, right? Step two is if A is equal to 1, right? The reason why I said if A is equal to 1 is because factoring a quadratic expression has two parts. The first part is factoring a quadratic expression when A is equal to 1, and then factoring a quadratic expression when A is not equal to 1. Factoring a quadratic expression when a is not equal to 1 is more advanced, definitely. However, what I've seen is a lot of standardized testing and stuff really does have everything boiled down to you being able to factor when a is equal to 1. This is where it starts. So we're going to try to get us to master this. And if you do master this, then the rest will be easy. So if a is equal to 1, this is the step. Literally, this is all we have to do. It's a puzzle. I like puzzles. I hope you guys like puzzles too. Find two factors, right? And factors, two numbers that can go into a number, or not two numbers, but a factor is a number that goes into another number without leaving a remainder. In this case, you have to find your factors in pairs. So you're finding two factors of C, right? The number C that add to give B. That's it. And a way you could look at it is multiply to get the last, add to get the middle. So we're finding the most important thing to remember here is two. We're finding two numbers that multiply to give us the last term, which is C, and that also those same two numbers have to add to give us the middle term, right? Now, the third step is that these two factors are your answer. I'm going to explain that and how you write it. But step two, this is really where, you know, we have to figure this part out. Now, I have some tricks and tips here. There's a sign trick when focusing on C and B, right? If C is positive and B is positive, then both factors will be positive. We're going to see how that comes into play. We also have another trick here where it says if C is large, don't start at 1, right? Start at the square root of the absolute value of C. So square root of the absolute value of C, right? So it means that if C is negative, then we find the square root of the positive number. So if C is like negative 84, we find the square root of 84. That's all that this means, right? It's just a place where you start because the square root of 84 is like 9 point, maybe 2, I guess, or 9.1, whatever it is, then we would start looking for factors around the number 9, right? I'm just like going through when I've taught this topic before, where are some areas that people struggle and get frustrated. And honestly, people get frustrated with finding the factors, right? It's a nice little puzzle and people struggle with it sometimes. Okay. Another trick, and these don't make any sense to us now, but when we get to a problem, I will come back to these tricks, right? If C is positive and B is large, then the factors are far apart. And if B is small, then the factors are closer together. Okay. So I'm going to look at some examples and keep coming back to these. Now, the ones you are going to like are ones where everything is positive because it's just better when everything is positive. Okay, so let's look at this one. A is equal to 1, right? Coefficient of the, this is R, but it's coefficient of the variable squared term. Okay, B is equal to 12, C is equal to 27. Okay, so the steps are, we're going to find one way in which people do it is like they draw a little X and they say 27 and 12, right? We're finding two numbers that multiply to give us 27 and add to give us 12. That's what we're looking for. So we're looking at 27 and we're trying to find, and you guys probably figured it out already, but let's humor me for a second. Let's go through. Um, what are the factors of 27? Well, 1 and 27 are the most obvious factors of 27, right? Because 1 times 27 is equal to 27, right? So that's where these two are factors. Both 1 and 27 goes into 27, okay? No, 27 is easy, and I threw this one there because can you think of more factors? Only two more, 3 and 9, okay? Now, the question is between 1 and 27 and 3 and 9, which one, when you add it together, you get B? All right, it's pretty straightforward. As you guys can see, it's 3 and 9. So 3 and 9. So it's like 3 times 9 gives us 27. 3 plus 9 gives us 12, right? That's one way to look at it. If it's positive, then if A is positive, B is positive, C is positive, it's pretty straightforward, right? As you can tell here, another way to look at it is just to say, hey, 9 and 3 added together gives me 12. 9 times 3 gives me 27, right? Now, because these are your factors, right, and it works, then you will say that your answer would be R plus 3, R plus 9. These are your factors, and that's how you'd write it. Okay, so this is how we just factored it completely. Now, let's look at more examples, and I'm just going to be walking through different examples so that we can all see it together. Okay, the way that you write it, for me personally, is not necessarily as important right now. And when I say write it, I mean this part. This part's the answer. That's the most important part. Okay, so let's look at another one here. A is equal to 1, B is equal to -8, C is equal to 15. Now, that means that I need to find two numbers that multiply to give me 15, right? Two numbers that multiply to give me 15. So let's try it like this. Multiply to give me 15 and add to give me -8, right? And they must be the same two numbers. Now, what I want to do now is I want to go back to some of the tips. So C is positive, B is negative, okay? So what did I say? If C is positive and B is negative, then it means that both factors will be negative. That's where that comes in. So that means that I'm looking for two negative factors. What are two numbers that multiply to give me 15? All right, 15 and 1, 3 and 5. That's it. So I'm going to use -3, -5. And as you can see, -3 and -5 gives me 15, and -3 plus -5 does give me -8. So -3 and -5 are the two factors that I would use. So in this case, I would end up with n minus 3, n minus 5. All right. So this is what we're focusing on here. Let's look at another one. A is equal to 1, B is equal to 3, C is equal to negative 18, right? So I need to find two numbers that when I multiply them, I get negative 18, and the same two numbers when I add them, I get 3. And these have to be the factors of negative 18. C is negative 18, B is positive 3. So let's look at what did I say about that here. I want to just keep going back to this, right? C is negative 18, right? And B is positive 3. So C, negative C, positive B means that I'm going to have different signs, but the negative sign is going to be on the smaller factor. So how would I approach this? So what I would say is, since I'm going to have um, different signs, the negative sign is going to be on the smaller factor. Let's put the smaller factor right here, just negative. And let's find two numbers. So let's write the factors of 18. 18 and 1, let's put the negative on the smaller factor. Come on, give me two more. 9 and 2, negative on the smaller factor. Which other one? 6 and 3, negative on the smaller factor. Can you think of any more? Probably not, right? Because the factors of 18 is just 1, 2, 3, all right, 6, 9, and 18. So between these three, which one, when you add them together, you get 3? And you can see it's this one. So it's going to be 6 and negative 3, 6 and negative 3, right? This should be 18 here. My fault. So ideally, we know that it's 6 and negative 3. So my answer would be x, well, it's not x, but a plus 6 because it's positive 6, a minus 3 because it's negative 3. All right, let's do another one. Here, a is equal to 1, b is equal to negative 3, c is equal to negative 28. As you guys can see, I did examples that cover all of the tips and tricks, right? So here, again, finding two numbers, when I multiply them, that's not big enough. Let's try again. When I multiply them, I get negative 28. And when I add them, I get negative 3, right? And this is, we're going to find the factors of negative 28. Before we do that, let's check back my table here. Let's verify. C is negative, B is negative. Okay, so what did my table say? If C is negative and B is negative, I'm going to have different signs, but the negative is going to be on the larger factor. Okay, let's examine. Factors of 28. So 28 and 1, negative would be on the larger factor, right? Which other one? 14 and 2, negative on the larger factor. 7 and 4, negative on the larger factor. Can you think of any more? No. So which one of these, when I add them together, I end up with negative 3. You guys can see it's this one. So negative 7 plus 4, or multiplied by 4 is negative 28. And negative 7 plus 4 is negative 3. So my factors are x, not x. I'm conditioned to use an x. It's going to be n minus 7 because it's negative 7, and n plus 4. And that's my answer. Okay? Let's look at this one. So if you notice, I threw two positive ones in there. Listen, when you see positive, happy, happy, happy. X is equal to 1, nonsense. A is equal to 1, B is equal to 7, C is equal to 10. So when you see it like this, you're like, okay, What two numbers, let's do it still, let's still stay with the system. What two numbers, when I multiply it, I get 10, and when I add it, I get 7, right? Let's stay with the system. I'm sure you guys have picked it up already. Okay, two numbers that multiply to give me 10, 1 and 10, 2 and 5. Now, this is the trick, right? Because A and B and C are all positive, I don't have to worry about negative numbers. I just keep going. We know 5 times 2 gives me 10. 5 plus 2 gives me 7. So my answer is x plus 5, x plus 2. And that's it. If it's all positive, it's A-okay. Now, let's look at this one. A is equal to 1, right? B is equal to 21. C is equal to 98. So we're trying to find two numbers that multiply to give us 98 and add to give us 21. So let's look at the factors of 98. Now, this is one of those where I threw this in there because I want you to focus on this one right here. Where is that thing, that step? Here it is. If C is positive and B is large, the factors are far apart. If B is small, the factors are close together. So this is a nice one here where we're like saying that C is positive, which is 98, and B is 21. So some of the things that you want to look at is finding the factors of 98, right? Now, 21 would say is a larger number in the context. So we know that because it's a larger number, we're looking at the factors being further apart, right? Close together kind of means like 2 and like 3, or like 5 and like 6. Far apart is anything that's not really beside each other, like consecutive numbers. So let us find the factors of 98. Now, obviously, we go 98 and 1. The way in which I would do this one is I would go half on one side and double the next side. So I'd say 98 divided by 2 would be 49, and that would be 49 and 2, right? Now 49 I can't divide by 2, so let's try to divide by 3. And this is just like a best practice. I can't divide by 3, so if I try to divide by, can't divide by 4 or 5 or 6, right? So it's like you start to divide 49 by and find the factors of 49. You start to realize, okay, 49 divided by, you started with 3, 4, 5, 6, nothing works, so you got 7. So 49 divided by 7 is 7. So we have 7, 7, and 2, right? What you clearly can see now is that these are the prime factors of 98, which means that any combination of two numbers will come from these here. So it would mean that 7 times 2, which is 14, and 7 will give us 98 as well, right? This is just kind of understanding numbers and how numbers work together. This is something that you guys would have done before, prime factorization. If you're ever in doubt, if you find the prime factors of a big number, your combination is going to come from those prime factors, right? So just to show you again, when I did 7, 7, because that's 49, and then 2, I know that 98 is broken up into these three prime numbers, right? So because of that, I know that any combination of two numbers is going to come from these here. So that's why I get 14 and 7, okay? And does 14 and 7 add to give me 21? The answer is yes. And 14 times 7 gives me 98. So my answer would be x plus, was it x? Yes, it was x. There we go. X plus 14, x plus 7. right? Now I'm getting bigger numbers here, just for practice. So A is equal to 1, B is equal to 7, C is equal to -60. And at any point you think you got it, you want to keep going and try stuff for yourself, go ahead. So trying to find two numbers that when I multiply them, I get -60. And when I add them, I get 7. Now what you want to notice that, let's try to do it without going back. If C is negative and B is positive, then what does that say about my signs? It means I need what? Do you remember? It means I need different signs, but in this case, the negative will be on the smaller number. So let's find the factors and put them on the smaller number. 60 and 1, put the negative there, right? 20 and 3, right? Put a negative there. 10 and 6, put a negative there. Can you think of any more? Use your calculators, you know, work through it. Take your time. 15 and 4, put a negative there. Can you think of any more? 12 and 5, put a negative there. All right. Obviously, 30 and 2, put a negative there. Okay, you guys got the gist. Which one of these factors, when I add them together, it gives me 7? Do you see it? This one? No. This one? No. This one? No. This one? No. That one. 12 and -5 gives me -60. 12 plus -5 gives me 7. So my answer would be, what variable was it? B. B plus 12, B minus 5. All right. This is an example. Now, again, I have the tips and tricks. You take your time. You want to just work your way through finding the factors and then identifying the pair of factors that add to give you B. Okay. Here's another one. So this one, you should notice that it's similar. If B is negative and C is positive, we know we're going to have two negative numbers. Is that the case? Let's check. Let's scroll out and go here. Right back to this. If C is positive and B is negative, it means I have two negative numbers. Is C positive? Yes, it is. And is B negative? Yes, it is. So it means I have two negative numbers. So just follow the tips and tricks and you cannot go wrong, right? So what two numbers, all right? And this is almost as if it's positive. If it's two negatives, then it's basically like two positives, right? Because it's the same sign. So let's find the factors of 32. 32 and 1, 16 and 2, 8 and 4, right? And then because both have to be negative, that's the only way I could multiply it to get a positive number and add it to get a negative number. And as you guys can see, I've identified -8 and -4. And when I add them together, I get -12. So my answer would be B minus 8, B minus 4. Okay? All right, guys. Hey, listen, do some practice. Let me know how it goes.